They should have the tools, and now they have to start using their brain. Like they need to know why and not what.
Hello, print friends, and welcome to the 81st episode of Pine Copper Lime, the internet's #1 printmaking podcast. I'm your host, Miranda Metcalf. I release weekly podcasts with people in the print world who are doing something a bit beyond the expected. So please subscribe on your podcast listening app of choice. You can also find Pine Copper Lime on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and you can find all of this at pinecopperlime.com. We also have a Patreon page where generous and lovely print fans sign up for tiers that start at just $1 a month. And as of this week, every tier will have access to a new feature in our PCL community, Shop Talk with our editor, Timothy Pauschak. These are brief, short, all business, quick and dirty tips and tricks with our guests. What kind of paper do you use and why? What's the most important thing to know when you're starting a shop? How do you get your screens washed out so well? This is technical, printmaking nerd content at its finest. Check that out through the link in the show notes. Hey, print friends! We have merch, all kinds of designs to show your PCL love and make print jokes to confuse and intrigue your friends and family. Our newest X-Files inspired release goes out to everyone graining who wants to believe their stone will eventually be level and scratch-free. Printmaking forever, shun the non-believers. Pine Copper Lime is brought to you by Speedball Art Products, who've been offering a diverse range of high-quality products to your practice since 1997. Products like their new line of professional relief inks, beginning with their flagship color, Super Graphic Black, developed with the printmaker Bill Thick. Formulated with all the working properties artists demand, these light, fast inks roll out consistently, transfer beautifully, and easily clean up with soap and water. So, if you want to take your practice to the next level, head on over to Speedball's website to see where you can pick up a can of your new favorite color. Link in the show notes, as always. My guests this week are Brandon Gunn and Valpuri Remling from the Tamarind Institute of Lithography. Brandon is the Director of Education, and Valpuri is the Master Printer and Workshop Manager at the Tamarind Institute. Together, they run two sides of Tamarind's world-famous lithographer training program. We all had a wonderful conversation about how Tamarind works, and this seemingly at times mercurial world of litho. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and prepare to romance the stone with Brandon and Valpuri. Sorry, we're on episode 81. I can only hold on to that joke for so long. I'm only human. Hi, Valpuri. Hi, Brandon. How's it going?
Hey, we're good.
Good, yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining me on, I think it's probably just the very beginning maybe of a little break for you all. I'm not sure how life works at Tamarind these days with COVID and everything. I know everything's kind of up in the air, but speaking with you two has definitely been on my wish list for quite some time, maybe since the day one of Pine Copper Lime. So I'm really happy that we all could get together. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've been like, where's the interview?
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Brandon, I know you from, probably 6 or 7 years gone by now, from before you were at Tamarind.
I was trying to remember when we met. I remember taking a group of students out to Seattle, just cruising around. We came across your gallery at the Davidson Galleries when you were still there. And I remember, Miranda, you were so nice. You let me just pull open drawers and leaf through Daumiers, and you were so trusting.
Well, I could tell. I could tell you were print fam. I was like, he knows what he's looking at. He'll be good. You could tell.
That was a great trip. But yeah, that's been, I don't know, maybe even 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah,
since we first met.
Definitely.
It's been a while.
And then Valpuri, I don't know that you and I have ever met in person before.
Not that I remember, unless we've met at SGCI and it's just been hectic and I don't remember.
Yeah. I think that I definitely know of you from the print world, but yeah, I'm excited to actually get to connect a bit in person in real time. And so I feel like Tamarind as an institution has been a little bit of a touch point that, through the interviews that I've done, which is probably coming up on, 75 now. It's been quite a few. It comes up over and over again. People mention it in passing. Some people have been trained there. I think I've had a lot of alumni from Tamarind come through Pine Copper Lime doors. So I think people either may know about it already, or they may, if they're regular listeners, being like, what is this place? So I'm really keen to have you both get a chance to explain about it a little bit more and talk about it and your involvement in it. But before we dive in, would you each maybe give yourself a brief introduction and just let people know who you are, where you are, and what it is that you do?
Valpuri, do you want to go first or second?
I can go first.
Okay, sounds
If
good.
I would have asked that question, that would have meant that I don't want to go first. Like, so I'm
You know me.
We'll take turns going first. Don't think this is going to be the thing. I am the workshop manager, master printer here at Tamarind Institute. And I am from Rovaniemi, Finland. It's on the Arctic Circle in Finland. That's where I was born and raised. And I've studied printmaking in universities around the world a little bit. And then I've myself been a student at Tamarind Institute. And yeah, I've been at Tamarind for 5.5 years now at this position. And I love it.
Beautiful.
I'm Brandon Gunn. I am the education director at Tamarind. I've been there a little bit less than Valpuri. I've been there, if you've been there 5.5 years, I guess I'm at 5 now, which is a little scary.
That sounds right.
I'm originally from Orem, Utah, and studied printmaking at Brigham Young University, did my master's degree at Illinois State University, and then I ended up at Tamarind as well, which, for me at the time was a big surprise that I got in. I'd heard about it from all my professors and knew of Tamarind's reputation. So when I got into Tamarind, I was kind of shocked and pleased, and went through the program, just like Valpuri. We both did the first and second years. And then I went on to mostly teach in universities after that. Worked in some shops at universities, but most of those were tied to the universities. So I taught up in Montreal and then in Indiana, Idaho, and New Mexico before coming back to Tamarind and taking the education director position there.
I should mention the true alma mater, which is Helsinki Litho, which is where I first were able to print. I was able to print an edition, and then Helsinki Litho has 2 Tamarind trained printers. Matti Hintikka is the master printer, the senior printer there, and then Kalle Berg, and now also Roma Auskalnete, who's a student of Brandon's, also prints there. But Helsinki Litho was who sent me to Tamarind, who were like, you should go to Tamarind. Matti was my lecturer at the academy, the Fine Arts Academy in Helsinki, and he was the one who was like, you should go to Tamarind, and I had no idea what it was, and I didn't even know New Mexico was a state. but I'm not alone with that. But yeah, so that's definitely and then I went back after Tamarind. I went back to Helsinki Litho, and I worked there for a good 6 years as a printer before, moving here. So
yeah. And is Helsinki Litho a commercial shop or a teaching shop or a university? Or kind of all of it? What's its function?
It's not a university shop. It is a private shop that was started by Kuutti Lavonen, artist, and Matti Hintikka, artist and Tamarind trained printer. And it was started with Matti printing for himself and then printing for Kuutti. And then Kalle joined. They didn't take Kalle in before he took Tamarind's class. He had to do the PTP before they, took him as a member of the shop. And then they always did their own work. They were all kind of working as artists, but then they also started bringing in some other artists in addition to the founding artist Guti, and to print them. And then definitely after I joined, we started doing a lot more collaborations, really reaching out to get those collaborations in. We also taught. All of us taught at universities simultaneously. But we're not part of the university. Everybody was kind of doing it under their own, whatever you call that, when you're like not a business together, but everybody had their own business as an artist, and just collaborate together and just split costs and revenues 3 ways. And I think that's the same thing they're doing now with Roma.
Yeah, I was going to say that's still how it's working, right?
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, now my interest is very piqued on Helsinki litho. So I'm going to have I'd have to chase them down for an interview too.
Well, it's interesting. Like Tamarind kind of works this way where we have a heritage in shops, and Helsinki litho is one that's constantly sending people to Tamarind, or people from Tamarind are constantly going there. And Artist Press is another one, like, and Keystone, like, shops that have Tamarind printers tend to send people to us and we send people back. It's kind of an interesting exchange.
Yeah, like you've got kind of like sister shops around the world that are growing alongside you. Yeah. There's a litho shop on the Faroe Islands that I'm so intrigued by. I don't know if you all are aware of it. I think it might just be called Faroe Litho. And they have pictures of the shop and they've got stones there. And I always look at them like, look, if you got stones on the Faroe Islands, I can find stones in Bangkok. I just know it,
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
like they must have come over in a steamship or something. But yeah,
They're somewhere.
Yeah, I love all of these shops that maybe even in kind of unexpected places, not that Helsinki's unexpected, but just that kind of discovery of that litho family around the world of just the like, wait, what are you doing here? Like there's massive limestones here. What's happening? Yeah.
It's kind of fun when you think of like where Tamarind has sent people and the litho that's happening around there. And Tamarind used to have a great history of going out and starting up litho in areas. Like I think that's partially how litho got introduced into Canada again, was someone going up and doing a workshop, and that spreading out from the people who were at that workshop and really engaging, the area, and people going out from that. And it's a really interesting, like, I don't know, history to look at.
Well, I feel like I have so many questions kind of about Tamarind and what it does, and like that interesting histories of being Johnny Apple litho across the world, sort of spreading lithography around. But just in case people aren't familiar who are listening, could someone just sort of give a bit of the elevator pitch for Tamarind? Like what is it? Where is it? And kind of, why is it this presence in the art world that people, know of it and aspire to it, and all roads kind of lead back to Tamarind in some ways.
I'll take this one, Valpuri, and you can back me up or chime in and correct me. But Tamarind really started, and I don't want to go back too far into our history, but one of the reasons it became such a thing was when June Wayne started it, there was a real void for printmaking, and especially collaborative lithography in the United States. And so she applied for a grant, got the funding to revive that in the United States. She was an artist, and her problem was that she felt like she shouldn't have to travel to Europe to collaborate and make lithographs. And so she wanted to have that ability in the United States and to foster that in the United States. And so that's really what Tamarind has been about in our history, is to, we have, or at least had, a threefold mission of training new master printers, training artists to work in lithography, and reestablishing the market for lithographs in the United States. And, a lot of that has been done over the years. We don't necessarily have to reestablish a market for selling lithographs, although that's maybe always a debatable point. Like, are prints actually selling? How do they compare to paintings? That's always an issue for sure. But, and one that we're actively in the field of, because we're printing and selling prints, and that's how we make our funding and continue our processes now. But we're still very much engaged in the training of master printers, the engaging artists in lithography. That's very much at the core of what we're doing, and trying to create that community around lithography that really, is so essential for our survival throughout the world. And I think that's a big part of what we still are striving to do. And one of the reasons that Tamarind has such a history, because we do train people and we send them out into the world. We don't train them, and Valpuri can talk more about the frustrations of this. We don't train them to keep them in the shop. And that is actually, it's kind of problematic. You get someone trained perfectly to print, finally, and then you send them out to the world.
Yeah,
you don't get to take advantage of any of that. And so, both of the thing that's our biggest strength, the training of these printers, and also our biggest weakness, is that we send them immediately out to go out and take that knowledge and spread it into the world, either as teachers or artists or printers or whatever it may be that they do. But I think that's where so much of the history comes back to us, is, or at least part of it comes back to us, is because we're actively trying to get our printers out into the world and have them succeed. We're very invested in them succeeding out there.
Yeah.
That's the story of every printer that comes out of Tamarind. We send them out, exactly what you guys are trying to do in Bangkok, to start a shop to reinvigorate lithography in the area that they're going to, and to get artists, just like Tamarind did in the early years. That's still needed everywhere. And it used to be that the big shops could kind of hold that, like, the big lithography workshops that were employing tons of printers, but we're not really in that economy anymore. It doesn't feel like we're in the economy of smaller shops that cater more to the local than they do to the country or something like that. There are very few shops like Tamarind still.
It's like it operates totally differently than any other or most other shops. Obviously, lots of people who graduate from Tamarind tend to do things the way that they learned them there. But then depending on where you are, what the history and traditions of that place is, what are the artists like that you're working with, what are the tools and materials that you can get, what is the humidity of the place that you're working in, it's changed. So you have to also learn the local ways. So it's almost like, we teach them to fish, we don't give them the fish. We teach them how to do research, how to trace your mistakes. Like, what did you do? What went wrong? Why did it go wrong? What could I do differently? How would I better this? And having all these people come through our shops here, the educational side and the professional side, obviously brings more to us as well. So we're constantly adding to our knowledge and our pool of tools and traditions with all these people from around the world who come and share their experience that they've had wherever they printed before. So research and keeping current material and technical wise and art wise, it's a very important thing for me that we create good art. That's what I want to be proud of, that the art is current, that it's true to the artist's work, that what they're doing at the moment, and they can be proud of it and they can show it with their other work. That's the main thing for me to do, their research. Those are the two main things for me.
When you said that Tamarind's a unique shop, do you mean like in the way that you go about lithography and the way that you train people and then send them out into the world?
Yeah, those are all of the things for sure. Obviously, we don't have we train our help as they work for us. So we're simultaneously teaching, training, We have a very traditional master apprentice system, and we're creating work that is shown with shops that have, trained help that have worked there for longer periods of times. And we're on a rotating schedule with these people. And we're part of a university, which, other shops are as well. And they do get the help from there as well. But like an example would be like, there's a difficult plate to sponge. My spongers are going to be students. Those are going to be my spongers. So they have to learn on the go, like there and then. And it might take longer than it would if I had, at Helsinki Litho, I'd have Matti or Kalle help me. Like they know exactly what to do. But here we have to teach every time. And say I have a 9-run lithograph, I might have almost every day, I might have a different sponger for every run. So I have to explain everything again. And it takes a lot of patience, and it's a lot of repeating same things, obviously, because the students, because there are going to be new things for them. But it's kind of like Diana says it well, I think, when she says that it's kind of like a teaching hospital. You're putting the people there, but it's only people, not like people, sick people. But it's not as serious. But I think that kind of like for people who don't know, maybe about traditional arts and crafts or craft art, master and apprentice sort of setting, that kind of helps them understand what these people have to do. They're going to be sent into the fire, and they have to try and survive with help, obviously. So
yeah, and I think that just to build off of that, that's one of the things that makes us different in terms of the education that we provide as well. A lot of art schools, you're not there to be a printer first. You're there to be an artist. That's what a lot of schools are training people to do now, is to be an artist. And for us, like, we're really training printers. And so in my year, the first year of the shop, they're in the shop for 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week, pretty regularly. And part of that is, me giving them demonstrations, me sitting there and helping them out and just working them to the bone so that it becomes just memory. And the other part of that is sending them over to Valpuri to, work for her, to sponge for her, and seeing how, it might actually work sometimes, because there's a lot of failure on my side of the shop. I tell them in the first semester, you're going to do 16 to 20 assignments for me, and every one of them you're going to probably fail in some way on, because I'm always throwing a new curveball at them, whether a different process or the layering of color or the addition size. There's always something that's meant to be that learning experience in there.
The students are going through a very, very tightly scheduled, very tight and pre-thought, very methodical. Like Brandon's really worked the education side, again and again and again. Every year he's trying to make it more just suitable for today and for the students and for this class setup. And it's very hard. It's very hard for them. They do work with me either when they're sponging for me or a press assistant or whatever I have them help me with, or when they become an apprentice on the professional side, they're going to have to start thinking outside the box again. Things don't go the way Brandon told them. They don't go in that order. They might not happen that way at all, but they need to know they should have the tools, and now they have to start using their brain. Like they need to know why and not what, That's what we kind of put them back and forth, so they don't get into this just train and just seeing like, okay, and I'm going to graduate in May and then that's it. Like they have to use what they've learned immediately, or even jump ahead. Like they haven't learned something yet, but I'm going to make them do it. And then they're going to come back to it and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I did this on the pro side. They're going to understand, and now I get it. And just seeing things from different angles will help you understand the chemistry of everything, that all the tools and materials that go in lithography, and just kind of the collaboration as well. Even though they don't really work with me in the collaboration that much, they do that with Brandon, visiting artists on the student side, but definitely kind of back and forth. It's interesting how their brain gets all scrambled.
And it's really important for their education for us to be able to send them over to the pro side and, take maybe a back seat in the printing, but really see how it's different. So like Valpuri said, my side is very structured. We're doing a new project every week, every 2 weeks, and we have deadlines. On the pro side, they're working with a completely different set of deadlines. You know, it may be an art fair that we need to ship to that's the deadline, but the pacing is so different in a professional shop than it is in a learning shop, right? Where you might have a deadline, but you also have to get it right. So that may mean a reprint at some point. It may mean that you have to stop and shut down your stone and etch it again to get the edition to print correctly. And it's really important for the students to be able to not just theorize about that, not just listen to me saying like, hey, you should shut down your stone and wait a day. And they're thinking, I don't have a day to wait. But to see that same thought process happen on the pro side where Valpuri's saying, we need to shut down this stone. We don't really have time to do this, but we have to do this and we're going to make it work.
We got to wait. That's not dry, or it's, you know, whatever it is.
It's not just about like hitting the deadline, but that it's about printing a good print as well. That is part of the process, just as much as the chemistry, just as much as anything else. Like printing it well is part of what we're doing.
That's definitely the most important thing for us, is that it's printed well.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point. I think particularly when it comes to lithography, where so much creative energy, so much wailing of gnashing of teeth can just go into the stone, just getting the stone to roll up like you've envisioned. And then I think, you know, once that happens, I can see particularly younger lithographers taking that breath and being like, I did it, and then completely forgetting that actually there's this whole other end goal, which is to make a good edition. Yeah.
Yeah. My students have since learned this semester that you may have to etch 5 or 6 times to get that stone stable, and that's just what it takes.
Yeah.
It's a really important lesson to learn, and part of that you learn on the pro side. Part of it you just learn from doing it and having it fail, you know.
Because a lot of the stuff that I tell them on this side, even for my apprentices, are the things that I know to think about prior to things happening. Like when the artist is here, things that we don't talk about, we don't discuss, but they're done so that we can proceed step by step, and we're always 10 steps ahead of the artist. You know, we have to know where we're taking this so that we can actually do it. And then it's very theoretical, because I tell my apprentices, like, okay, we're doing this, like, okay, and you have to think of this and this and this, and they hear it from me is different than them then going back and doing it themselves, and really having that aha moment, like, hey, I should here probably now think about extra fortifying the edge of my paper, because I've got this long print that's got all these horizontal lines that need to line up, or something like this, whatever it is. They don't then come to it afterwards with, oh, should have done that. So we're just trying to wake up their brain with, and on my own too. I mean, we always have to learn through mistakes too. We're never done with that. But I
think that's part of the beauty of it, though, is that one of the things that I think makes Tamarind a really lasting education is we take what they know. We don't discard that. I think that's really important. But we try and refine that. And teachers all over the world right now are probably like nodding their heads or shaking them like, oh, yeah. I tell the students something and they immediately ignore me and do it anyway, you know. And we definitely have that. But, you know, everybody comes into us with this kind of foundation, and that's really fascinating to work with that foundation and just recalibrate it a little bit so that you understand the things that you already know, how they may work or how they may not work, right? Yeah. And I think everyone thinks that there's some magical tamarind way out there. I hear that all the time. And I always grind my teeth at the tamarind way, because I think Valpuri and I would agree, like, half the time we're making stuff up, you know, not because we're flailing, but because we understand the chemistry and we need to tweak it for a particular artist or a particular project.
I mean, we come up with lithography with every artist anew. I almost feel like we come up with a new tool every time someone comes in.
And that's what really keeps it alive. And that's why having the students coming into the shop is so exciting for us, is because they come in with new ideas all the time. They have new ways of thinking about it that, is partially ingrained in their history and the way that they learn litho. And we're just really like helping them tweak that for a correct understanding of the chemistry maybe, or the theory of it, or the ebb and flow of working in a collaboration by making them do it over and over and over and over again.
Works both ways. Imagine the pool of people we have that we can reach out to when we need something, or we're in loss of a material or a tool or something. We have people around the world we can reach out to.
Yeah.
Or we need help somewhere. It works both ways. It really does. We're in touch with our colleagues and our past students and apprentices on a weekly basis with Brandon. We're talking, Tamarind printers kind of around the world. We're exchanging problems or news or whatever tips and tricks all the time.
Yeah, and so you've been talking a little bit about like the educational side and the pro side of the shop, and using the acronym TMP. For people who are listening at home and may not know, can you actually speak just a little bit to the physical structure and the kind of first year and second year, and the commercial printing that happens, versus the educational printing, just in the kind of nuts and bolts way?
So the program really kind of starts on my side of the shop with the first year of Tamarind Institute. And that's where most of our graduates actually come from. We accept 8 people into the PTP program every year. And that really is just a byproduct of the space that we have in the shop. We have 4 presses and 2 people per press, so we take 8. And the PTP is really a skill building year, I would say, like skill and knowledge building year. The thing is, a lot of people think they have to come into Tamarind like knowing how to print litho and being a good lithographer. And I think after 2 weeks of Tamarind, you realize no matter how good you thought you were coming in, there was a whole world of litho that you didn't know even existed out there. And so really we just reset. We start from the beginning. We start with graining a stone and how to grain a stone and how to etch a stone. We go through the theory of it, the chemistry of it. And then we talk about it on the whiteboard. We take it to the press. We see it in action, talk about it, and what's happening at the press, and really look for that deep, deep understanding of the theory and the chemistry of the process, first of all. And so the first semester of the first year is just assignment after assignment that's meant to test skills and build skills. So you start with black and white crayon bands and touche washes, and you're just doing grayscale to learn how to etch correctly for a wide range of materials, and then how to handle, a leather roller and black ink in all these different situations, how to do additions and deletions, and how to stabilize all this so that you can print additions off of it. And so that's all just like technical exercises that we start with. They're not exciting. They're kind of ugly to look at, especially if you've looked at them for year after year. But they really are fast skill builders. And so we do 8 assignments like that. And then on the 9th assignment, we start to introduce collaboration. We still stick to black and white. We stick to the traditional materials at this point, but we introduce collaboration. We hand that drawing off to somebody else's hand who doesn't draw like you do. And now you have to deal with, you don't know what number of crayon they use. They may use that crayon differently than you do. I love it when people come in and all they've ever used in their history is a number 5 crayon. And then on assignment 9, they get an artist who has only ever used a number 2 crayon. So they have to kind of reset how they look at drawings and materials and learn to read a stone instead of know exactly what happened on it. You have to learn to look at it and see how the artist handled that material, and then adjust your etches accordingly. And then, for the rest of the semester, we kind of alternate between doing assignments that you've drawn and collaborating with another artist, printer in the room and them doing that for you. But we take them through less frequently used materials and processes. So reversals, acetint, Manier, noir, sheen collé, like kind of everything that we can throw at them so that they have a really wide breadth of knowledge and skill set that they can use when we throw them into real collaborations in the second semester with artists. Because with artists, you never know quite what you're going to have to pull out of your bag. And I always tell my students, like, I'm teaching this to you, but this is not how you're going to give it to an artist. You're going to have to look for how that artist wants to work and adapt all of this to match them. You know, so it may be that you're using touche washes, but I think Valpuri a couple of years ago took a touche wash or gum arabic, I can't remember Valpuri, stuck it in a plastic acid dropper bottle and twisted on a pen cap to it so that the artist dropped those out onto the plate or stone, right? All the fundamentals are there, but you have to kind of reinvent it for the artist. So the first semester is all the skill building, all of the technical knowledge, and just body memory, like learning how to use your body so that you can keep the pace up, keep the skills up, and not get tired, which is tough when you're doing 70 to 80 hours a week with a big roller. You know, getting that muscle mass built up, the emotional and psychological kind of resilience that you need to stay in this game is also like really important. And I, you know, it's a misnomer to say that I'm only teaching technique on my side. I think through our whole program, the first year and the second year, we're teaching the technique for sure, the theory for sure, but the secondary things that people don't think about is the psychology of it. How do you get into the mind of an artist to do that collaboration? The physical part of it, how do you build up those muscles and maintain those? Which is a very real question. We talk about that throughout the semester. Like, hey, maybe you need a back brace while your muscles build up. And that's not, you know, that's not a shameful thing. Maybe you need it permanently, and that's fine. Learning how to use your body so that you can actually maintain this for a lifestyle, you know, that you can do this for the rest of your life and not just when you're a young student that has energy, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's really huge. And that's something that I think luckily people are paying more attention to just kind of around the world and across disciplines of this. It's no longer the attitude is that, oh, you just use your body until it gives out. That's what being a craftsperson is, you know, and that like that kind of sacrifice is just assumed to be part of it. But instead it's like, no, let's think about this as a way as like to stay sustainable. And so you can still be doing what you love and doing what you've been trained for at 70 rather than, you know, having the bones in your wrist give out from flipping the roller.
Exactly. So yeah, like teaching the students teaching them how to run a business is also part of the first year. So they have a business class that goes along with the technical training and an art history class that goes along with the technical training so that they understand kind of this full view of what it takes to run a workshop or to survive in the art world wherever you may end up. I think teachers have to do this all the time as well. Artists have to do this. You have to run your own business. You know, it's not just collaborative print shops that we're training for, even though that is definitely what we're training for, but it definitely applies beyond that. And then I'll just sum up quickly. My second semester is a lot more free form. I invite in graduate students from the Art and Art History program at the University of New Mexico. And we have a number of students that come into the shop and work as artists, and they come from all different areas of the university. So I've had architects, ceramicists, photographers, painters, printmakers, you know, whatever area we can get them from. And then recently we introduced bringing in outside professionals back into the PTP program. So mixed in with the graduate students that are coming in and acting as artists for the printers. They also have a few professional artists that pay to come and work in the shop with the students for maybe a little more elevated experience. So, when there's money on the line, it makes a difference, I think.
Totally.
So, I always say, hey, they're paying for this. But that tends to be somebody that can come in and really dedicate a couple of weeks to being in the shop, where the graduate students that come from art and art history are great artists, but they do have jobs and other studies that kind of interfere sometimes with them being able to fully engage in the workshop. Mm-hmm. So we have kind of this mix of artists that come into the shop, and the students are in charge of controlling those collaborations under my guidance. I help them kind of learn the ropes of that during that second semester and figure out how that would apply to businesses. I don't know. I think that's kind of the first year in a nutshell.
And you mentioned something that really makes a good bridge to the second year, is that when Brandon said that we train collaborator printers, but also, you might find yourself being an artist, you might find a little educator in yourself. So for those who are interested in continuing on tapping onto maybe I want to be a collaborative printer, or I'm not sure, or I want to learn more, or I want to stay here, those who have that situation in their life that they can stay for another year, those people who you just want to try it, they can then apply to stay with me for another 12 months, because I need someone to work with me, otherwise I'm going to be by myself.
Yeah.
Could be a very sad sight. But so my shop is in the same building. There's just a stone storage that separates our two shops here. We're connected. We don't have any doors between us. I have three presses.
Yeah, that can be musically challenging sometimes.
You know that I'm not shy to say, shut it down. Especially if it's some sort of it's usually very bad music. It's like, I don't even know if you can call it music. It's play. But so then we go throughout the year, we evaluate the students throughout the first year with Brandon and Diana Gaston, our director, and also our curator, Ben Schoenberg. Like, where is the student going? What are their strengths? We kind of try and ask them, and then also tell them what it looks like that is working for them, and what they should work a little bit more on to reach their goals. And then at the end of the year they can apply, and we go through a very actual application process that they write a letter of intent to want to stay. We interview them. We look at what's ahead that year. Do we need one person? Do we need two? Do we need three? What's the pool of the students? What are we looking at? Do we have everybody wants to stay? Do we have three that are wanting to stay? And it changes every year a lot. And then whoever ends up staying starts in June with me. And literally first day of my apprentice now, Elisa Eppinger, was with an artist, visiting artist. At the same day as the visiting artist came, Elisa started with me. So we had no time together before that. So it's really throwing into the flames and just sink or swim kind of situation. And they learn as we go. They learn where everything is in my shop and how I like to do things. And it's very much always a group effort for us. It's one of the main things they learn on this side is how to work as a team, because usually there's two apprentices and myself, and we work as a team together. What are the strengths of that person, or what do you need to learn? It's like teaching and using your strengths at the same time. So you putting you in a situation where what you need to work on, but also pulling you into a situation that I know that you can really do well. And also working together. And they have to do everything that I do as well. I'm always obviously there. It's my responsibility that things go well. And if they don't, it's also my responsibility. Mm-hmm. But they are very tired, and we work long days also on my side. And again, just continuing to teach them about how to use their body. I always hate it. I call myself I'm nagging all the time, and I hate to say things when someone has a good flow and I see something that I think that they could do differently. And then Alyssa gave me a good tip. She said, just say pro tip. And I'm like, okay, here's a pro tip. You could, rather than be like, oh, well, I don't want to say, but I think if you did this, it would be a little easier and we could get that work a little better. So it's really fine tuning that person's abilities and their strengths, and just using their strengths and really like stretching them pretty thin on the second year. So we, on my side, we have visiting artists depending on if it's a year of COVID-19 or if it's anything from, I suppose from 1 to 12 or whatever, how many artists we have over that year. And since we're kind of far away here in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, we try and have the artists come for a longer period of time. 2, 3, 4 weeks is wonderful. And then we work with them on whatever we decide to work with them on. I mean, it starts before they get here. I don't want to get it so much into how we do collaboration, but people know like it starts, connection starts before. But, when they get here, we really throw ourselves into it and make it a really fun experience for everybody. That's an experience where everybody's thriving, everybody's innovating, everybody's excited. And I mean, obviously it changes with every artist that comes in. It's always going to be a little bit of a different experience. But we're always 100% in. And I try to give my apprentices the energy that I try to bring into a situation. And it depends on the artist. Like, we have to see the energy level of the artist and sort of try and be on that same level and respect that. And we create this little team together where we sort of scheme things and it's a very we come very close. I come very close with my apprentices because it's really every day on a very personal level. There's no yourself. There's no walls between the presses. I see everything they're doing. I hear everything they're doing. Smell everything they're doing. It's like it's really super hands-on and it's really close-knit. And it's exciting. I mean, I have days when I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't. It's horrible. Oh, like how did I survive today? But then and this is what I tell my apprentices too. We come to work every day to make lithographs. So don't try and rush a project. There's going to be another project, behind the next door. It's like we come here to do lithographs every day and we do them to our best ability and as great as we can. So we don't rush from project to project. We take the time, whatever the time it takes. And so I'm trying to just have them be in that moment constantly where you come to work and we make lithographs, and you come to work tomorrow again and we make lithographs. Like, it's not, I can't wait to be done with that project or whatever. It's like there's always another thing around the corner that is going to have its own problems and different obstacles, and it's intense for sure.
But I feel like that's just even good life advice, honestly. Like that I think so much we want the end goal. We want something to be done so we can have that kind of checked off. And I love that part of that training is like asking people to breathe and step back and be present with what they're doing, and not really being like this has to get done because then it's done and then I can get the kudos, or it has to be done because I'm anxious that it won't come out, so I just want it to be done so I know what's going to be on the other side. Just be like, look, like there's not a sense of lack. There's plenty of lithography to go around. Like, you don't have to
enjoy your life, enjoy your day, enjoy your hour, enjoy your moment, be present in that moment and that hour. Really, we're trying to really be present. And at the end of the day, it's the artist who we're working for. We can't make these decisions ourselves. We need to make sure that the artist is happy, and that's the end goal, really. And then you mentioned TMP, which is Tamarind Master Printer Certificate, and that's a historical certificate that it's changed the system. The program has changed throughout these 60 years, but now it is so that everybody who graduates from the PTP, which is Brandon's side is called the Professional Printer Training Program, they get Tamarind certificates that they are Tamarind trained printers. And then the printers who stay for another 12 months are given a Tamarind Master Printer Certificate. And I think that really just shows that you went through 12 months of working in a professional shop, which is very rare. Like you don't usually go from Tamarind and actually work in a professional shop and print the work that's done in that professional shop and work with the artists there. You usually go and you're still an apprentice, or you're helping sponging, or you're grinding stones. So you're really thrown into the fire and you have to really make it work. Even though you're not really ready, you're still learning. So it's just like a certificate that gives them, they can say that, hey, I survived that. There are prints at Tamarind that I've printed that they are showing and selling. There are artists who worked at Tamarind that I collaborated with. That's what that certificate shows.
I do want to clarify that we have no pretense of that TMP meaning in any way that they are master printers at this
That's
point.
What I didn't want to say.
Yeah, I'm saying it for you. Like, because I think that's part of the misconceptions about Tamarind out there. And Valpuri and I have no pretense that our students go out perfectly trained. Like they're the tip of the iceberg. And I think what we're aiming for when they leave Tamarind is that they're at a sustainable point, that they can keep working in the field and become master printers. But becoming a master printer takes years and years and years. And you still learn the whole time. You still reinvent the whole time. And, you have to really earn that title. And, we have no pretense that is done when they leave Tamarind. We've hit the tip of all the icebergs, but just the tip.
And I also want to point out that we do try and find everybody something to do right when they leave Tamarind. We don't want anybody to just go like, okay, bye, see ya, take care. We try and make sure that we at least know where they're going, at the area where they're going, so that we can keep our eyes open if we don't have something for them right now. But we've got people going out to be educators. We got people going out to join a communal shop and work there as an artist, or maybe, take care of the litho site there, or open their own shop, or go and work or apprentice at a shop of a Tamarind printer somewhere in the world. So we do try and find the strengths of these people, point them at the direction that we think that they can start off of, and really be there for them even after that. So
yeah. Beautiful. Well, before we sign off, I did want to ask you both, kind of maybe to answer individually, is I think that, Tamarind is a place that people really admire and aspire to. And, as you said, you've got all of these Tamarind trained printers out in the world who I think are probably, the best promotion you could possibly have for Tamarind out there, is that they're out there doing good work. But there are, so many people in the world, particularly young students, who are interested in lithography as well. Do you have one golden hot lithography tip that each of you have that you could just as a freebie here for our good Pine Copper Live listeners? That's just look, if I could tell you one thing about litho, it's this.
That's a good question.
Man.
You only get one, though. You only get one. Yeah.
My apprentices would be there yelling, they're listening to this, this is what you always say, and now I can't think of anything.
Okay, I'm going to cheat on mine. I'm going to do, mine's going to be a two-part answer.
Okay. I'll allow it.
Okay. Don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to ask. I always feel like we do not get enough questions, even from my own students. I don't feel like they ask me enough, and I don't tell them everything because I just can't do that. But I also am like, why didn't you ask me when this happened?
Well, why? Because of my tip, which is take your time and use your eyeballs.
Yeah, which is the other part, right?
If you're not using your eyeballs, you don't see what you should be asking about.
It's an interesting line of when do you give up and ask someone, and when do you push through? But
and have fun with it. You should have fun with it. And having fun doesn't mean that you're not serious. I'm dead serious about what I do, so serious.
But we have a good time in the shop.
Because it's our life and we want to enjoy it, So
I think that's just such good life advice. Maybe if there's if you ever want to come with like a really cheesy book, you could write one that's like, what litho taught me about life. But I do think it's in
We've
there.
got like soap operas, books, everything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I bet. Because it's like slow down, take your time, and try not to take it so dang seriously.
Yeah.
It is the most important thing when we're doing it right there. But important things don't need to be sad or they don't need to make you down. It is important, and it's hard. But if you love what you're doing, that you can still enjoy it. And it's hard when you're tired and your arms are hurting and you can't feel your pinkies or whatever the situation is.
And I'll add actually to this, Miranda, that in the past, like Tamarind had the Tamarind book, and that has been our resource, right? But we're developing more and more. So we're doing some educational videos. We're putting them up on our website and on Vimeo. We're trying to get out there a little bit more and make this a little bit more accessible to people. And I personally love it when people ask me questions. I'm really going to regret this if this goes to air.
Oh my
but
gosh.
I love it when people email me questions because I turn that around and give it to a student to answer.
Oh.
And I double check their answers and everything, but I use that as a learning opportunity for them as well to dive in and research those things. So I love it when questions come in.
Wow.
And I'm really good.
I was going to say, it was like all of a sudden, like you check your phone, it's like 300 emails and it's like, I guess that was published, that interview I did a couple weeks ago.
And Brandon, you have a new Instagram account, Tamarind Education as well. If people haven't found that, it's quite new. But you can kind of like follow the Tamarind Education site as well as the Tamarind Institute main Instagram.
And we have a new Tamarind Education email as well, tamarind.education@unm.edu, where you can send questions and ask about the programs. And all
my
that
gosh.
Stuff too.
Y'all don't even know what's coming your way after this gets published. I get litho questions to the Pine Copper Lime Instagram. Like, buddy, it's a podcast. Like,
already forwarding them to me, so you might as well too.
We do get these emails, and this girl she was Irish, but she's studying in Croatia, and she had these horrible experiences in the shop, and nothing worked out, and nothing was done the way that she had learned, and everything was upside down, and everybody was having bad prints, and I mean everything that she was doing was wrong. And it's like I'm reading an email and I'm seeing photos. It's like I'd have to start from the beginning. And she said, I do have the Tamarind book, but maybe the teacher doesn't want to do it that way. And my advice for her was like, you're an Erasmus exchange student, you're in Croatia, they have their own history and traditions. Enjoy those. Find something they're good at. Do something else. Don't do lithography. You can go back and do litho then. Have fun, explore, use this situation to find yourself artistically. You challenge yourself. You went there to challenge yourself. Don't do litho then. Challenge yourself in another area. Like that's another like one of those situations where it's like maybe this is not worth your Erasmus exchange time to try and teach the litho teacher in that Croatian university how you do lithography. Now maybe find something they're good at, something that interests you to do something else, like adventure to different materials and techniques, and who knows what you can learn. Sometimes that's the answer too. So don't expect magical answers every time you write. She was happy though. She was really happy with the answers. Like, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to enjoy it. That was so lovely.
That's so good. And I do think it's really significant to hear that and to hear, the both of you sort of tell these stories too, because I think because Tamarind has such a huge reputation that precedes it, I think sometimes people might expect that it's like, well, it's the Tamarind way and litho is king and, and then, like having a good experience in life, making art that you're proud of, like that's the point,
Tamarind, one way that Tamarind's a very special shop is that we do try and make everything in planographic methods. it's very rare that we throw in, like, maybe the project that we had with Mark Dion, where we had to screen print the wooden boxes. There's like, but everything else we try and use. Our shop is our toolbox, and we try and use things that we can make planographically, and that challenges us. And it's sometimes harder. There might be better ways to do that. Maybe there's another printmaking technique altogether that might be better for that mark. But we try and make everything planographically because we are an educational institute, and that's what we do.
And we're nerds. We like that too.
I mean, let's be honest. Like, we're all nerds here, but yeah, it's like...
Totally.
Brandon's nerdier than I am.
That is also true, and I embrace it.
Just on the record.
Valpuri's just in denial.
This might just be the American in me, but I think Americans can't compete with Scandi cool. Like it's just like I've got family in Norway and Sweden. That's where my family's from, and it's just like, they were always so much cooler than like us clod-hoppy Americans, but I'm here for it. It's who I am. We can't compete with Helsinki.
No.
Well, Finns are not really Scandis. We're just Finns.
That's true. Well, yeah, I can't believe like we're already at the recording mark and past, because I just feel like there's so much more to talk about, but I'm really excited to share this. I'm really excited to get Brandon's inbox just spam to heck with, people just sending you blurry photos of filled in stones.
Great. I'm going to pass all that on to my students.
Yeah, you tell them they can thank Pine Copper Lime. Like,
yeah.
Students love it, though. It's great.
Yeah, definitely.
They really, that's another key with our students is they love everything that they do, no matter how much pain they're in. So.
I bet. Like, I bet if they've taken on this, and then they're just like, they're ready to eat, sleep, breathe, and cry litho for the time that they're with you, for sure. Well, it's been absolutely delightful chatting with you both, and I really sincerely hope that we see each other in person again sometime in this crazy world, whether in Bangkok or Albuquerque. And I'll put links in the show notes to the Tamarind Instagrams, including the educational Instagram and the educational email as well. Put those all in the notes, and I know this is going to be a great episode for people to learn more and get excited by. So yeah, thank you both again.
Thank you, Miranda. And hey, if you guys need any advice or help when you're setting up, feel free to reach out to us. Like, any resources we have, we'll share.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, if in the next year randomly y'all get a hot tip on some stones in anywhere really in this hemisphere, please think of us, because that'll be, probably a big part of our pursuit is tracking down the stones. We've got some leads, but we'll probably need more. So yeah, keep us in mind, please.
And I'll put you in touch with a couple people.
Well, that's our show for this week. Join me again next week when my guest will be Mike Pennekamp. We'll talk about the siren song of printmaking in labor, and the strange American landscape. You won't want to miss it. This episode, like all episodes, was written and produced by me, Miranda Metcalf, with editing help from Timothy Pauschak and music by Joshua Weber. I'll see you next week.